The end of our senior year has been unusual, to say the least, so we've had to make a commencement speech that matched. Rather than having 1 or 2 commencement speeches, we've created a class message. As a class, we've lost our prom, we lost our entire 4th quarter, and our goodbyes to friends and teachers. So now, to make up for lost time, we're forcing you to sit by as we give our final remarks to Clayton High School. And we have a lot to say.
I am Iman Jamison.
I am Lailah Hall.
I am Richard Cheng.
I am Isreal McClendon.
I am Borna Dianati.
I am Keilan Morrissey.
I am Jacob Beckett.
I am Katie Aiello.
I'm Teagan Baker. I am Jordan Hollins Lewis. And here are my thoughts for the class of 2020.
We've seen the tearful end of a decade, the chaotic election of a new president, the rise of TikTok, the countless amounts of protests and walkouts, 4 different choir teachers, infinite school days that should have been snow days and vice versa, the thankful invention of Greyhound time, and the developing of Clayton conversations. We've witnessed the friends around us change into mature adults, the burned bridges of old friendships, and watched as our love life went through high peaks and deep, deep valleys. We've watched as the teachers in our classes go from not knowing us to tolerating us to telling us to be quiet to hating us and then to loving us for who we are. We've seen the very long construction of the new baseball field, a fire in the boys' bathroom, the simultaneous malfunction of almost half the toilets in the school, the rise and fall of many great memes and inside jokes, and we've seen the changing of the world around us. No, because of us. So here we are, 231 high school seniors wearing our self-decorated caps that are precariously balanced and sweating in our royal blue gowns that got drenched through during the senior parade, eager to graduate, eager to leave Clayton High School and move on to bigger and better things in life. But in this very moment, instead of thinking about the plentiful events and activities we missed in the last quarter of our senior year, I ask all of you to remember the chaotic times we've had at CHS before then, because my goodness, class of 2020, we've been through a lot.
I was never the kid with the most school spirit, whose voice could be heard the loudest at pep rallies. I was never the most driven to have a higher grade than anyone else in the class. And I was never the type to try out for every sport and fill every single weekday afternoon with a different club. But the beauty of Clayton is that I never felt like I had to be that person. Clayton High School accepts students as they are, shows them their options, and allows them the freedom to decide for themselves who they want to be during their 4 years. Clayton supports the kids whose wardrobes are mostly made of orange and blue, just as much as the kids who didn't know the mascot was a Greyhound until sophomore year. They congratulate the kids who take pride in every A, just as much as the ones who care more about having a good time than the letter on a paper. And they cheer for the kids who are involved in every activity just as much as the folks like me who prefer to take off right when that 3:05 bell rings. I believe that we Clayton students had everything we needed during the school day. Classes where we felt enthused to learn. Classes that challenged us but still gave us a sense of accomplishment in the end. Teachers that frustrated us, and teachers that we connected with in amazing ways. Hilarious conversations with friends that we had sat with at the same lunch table for months on months. And serious conversations with our entire grade that were difficult to have. The creation of bonds that we will remember decades from now, and the formation of relationships that will last us through adulthood. No matter which kind of student you were in the last 4 years, you were a member of a family. A strange family, with relatives you only see on certain occasions, and some distant cousins you didn't realize you were even related to. But a family nonetheless. And as this family gives one last big socially distanced group hug before going separate ways, I only ask that we all take the best parts of Clayton with us as we go forward and change our world for the better.
The most important lesson I have learned at Clayton High School is the importance of legacy. But not the traditional legacy that we leave behind as seniors, as this year has thrown a wrench into the gears of everything traditional. Rather, these 4 years have taught me that whenever I pass through somewhere, I should either leave something behind or keep something to remember it by. It's an act ingrained in our shared experiences as humans, through giving gifts to dear friends, or making memories and saving them to recall how they made us feel much later. In every experience, you should find something that you can leave behind or something that you can keep. Except for in visiting nature. Don't litter. For many of us, those keepsakes are mementos, knickknacks, or even class assignments that we don't want to recycle after emptying our binders because perhaps we actually enjoyed doing a couple of those projects. But they don't need to be physical. In the era of mass pollution and waste, the greatest legacies are those that don't squander any more of the precious natural resources of this planet. For me, those keepsakes are the experiences that I have shared with others, the words that I have spoken. Looking out at the world that we are entering, it's clear that we are in dire need of speech more than stuff. So my recommendation, if you're still looking for a legacy as a Greyhound, is to speak. Speak up for what you believe in. Speak in words, in poetry, in art, or in any form of expression that you can take. It's not important how you say it, but it's important that you say it, and you do say it, and that the world will keep it as something to remember you by.
I have an important question to ask. Why did the chicken cross the road? The most common answer is to get to the other side. But what we really want to know is what awaits on the other side. And where does the chicken go from there? It's been a long time coming, but 12 years later we're finally crossing the road from high school to adulthood. Graduating is an amazing accomplishment because we've had to navigate around obstacles, break down barriers, and face adversity. Even the speeding 18-wheeler truck called coronavirus couldn't prevent us from crossing the road. But now that we're on the other side of high school, each of us must ask ourselves, where do we go from here? We are all shaped differently, thus our answers will be unique to our character, to our abilities, and to our passions. Don't feel intimidated by this question. Instead, we should seize this as an opportunity to exercise introspection and to explore our passions. Ultimately, by pursuing our passions, we'll be guided to fulfill our purpose. Furthermore, I urge you to consider how living in your purpose aligns with making a difference in this world. I personally live to honor God with my life and believe He created me to serve children in vulnerable communities. Today, I encourage you to ask yourself, what am I living for? Where do I go from here now that I've crossed the road? What is my purpose? Thank you.
Class of 2020. Although we are divided by this pandemic, our physical limitations and precautions, our impending futures, and our far-flung destinations, let us remain united, not as a class, but as a generation of newly realized Americans. As we join the ranks of adulthood, let us uphold our elders, encourage our juniors, emulate our betters, and make peace with our lessers. Let us lean on each other and bear together the weight of the future of our nation, as well as our planet. Because alone that responsibility is crushing. Let us remain united because there's much to be done. Because our nation is broken and in denial. Because all lives are not valuable in the eyes of its institutions or their defenders. Because life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness are inalienable rights, but health and safety apparently are not. Let us unite because the fate of our planet is a universal concern. So we owe it to each other. And because 100 voices are louder than one, and because candidates don't win elections, majorities do, and because there's safety in numbers, and because it's the right thing to do. Let us bear this burden of change together so that we might actually achieve it. Because only united can we stand, only together shall we overcome.
Although normally life likes to throw curveballs at us, and it is important to invest in plan A, B, and C, nobody, not one, could have prepared for what we are in now. This pandemic hasn't just taken lives, it has taken epic sports seasons, parties, and almost everything that we once loved and threw it all away. However, I'd argue that this event helped us prove even more of what we are capable of. We had only a few months left in the year to completely change the foundation of our learning system, and we still did it. We had to assist the communities in need, helping out in any way possible, and we still did it. Let us not kid ourselves. This pandemic forced this class to answer one big question. Who are we? And what are we good at? This graduating class, as well as the following others to come, are tasked with trying to complete unique challenges. Some might argue that we are tasked with the toughest ones yet. However, what gives me hope is not how we tend to solve our problems as individuals, but as a rallied community. Y'all didn't have to protest climate change, feminism, and most recently, the unrighteous death of George Floyd, but you did anyway. And that is what our class truly brings to the table. We are not people who desire self-sufficiency and power. We desire to help others using our collective talents and strengths. Yes, we love getting up at 11 in the morning, and too many of us have left assignments unfinished until the last night before. However, one does not learn until they do something that makes them say, "What was I thinking?" When push comes to shove, in all honesty, in no uncertain terms, the class of 2020 is going to be the people who desperately seek to change the fate of the world, regardless of who gets in their way. And trust me, you do not want to get us all-nighters cranky. If you turn to page 41 in your school yearbook, I mentioned how everyone has the potential to do amazing things. I still will buy that. Because even during all those times that we allow ourselves to get frustrated with others, we know for certain that change for the better comes from community as well as willpower. It also comes from learning wisdom from many different sources. If one retains all their wisdom from one source, it becomes rigid and stale. We refuse to be that. We are going to head into the future ensuring prosperity for those of us to follow. And we will overcome every obstacle because the class of 2020 and its unity are enough to scare anyone. Thank you, everyone. Wish us luck.
Give it time. The friends, the accolades, the recognition. Just give it time. I remember my mother so vividly stating this to me in July of 2016 as I nervously prepared to enter my freshman year of high school. I had no idea what the concept of time meant that she was referring to. I've always been taught that time is of the essence, and we must take full advantage of it and seize every opportunity possible to make change happen. As time progressed, I began to find truth in this quote and my mother's advice. Unfortunately, time was warped after hearing about the shooting death of Alton Sterling, a 37-year-old unarmed black man who lost his life to the Baton Rouge Police Department for selling CDs. A day after that, Philando Castile, a 32-year-old unarmed black father who was killed by a Minnesota police officer while being pulled over for a traffic stop with his girlfriend and daughter in the car at the time. These two events happened 1 week shy of my 14th birthday and a month shy of when I first entered high school. Learning about these two unfortunate events propelled me to work harder and put myself in positions of leadership to be a representation for my people and act as a voice for my generation, speaking against the injustices us as black people face on a daily basis. My mission challenged me beyond my timid 8th grade year to step out of my comfort zone for my next 4 years and branching out to participate in a number of clubs, improving my grades, networking with community leaders, obtaining several prominent leadership positions in hope of being the change I vowed to see in my school and the community around me. None of this happened overnight, but just like my mother said, it would take time. I say this to you, with everything happening in the world around you, please understand that wherever you go, whatever you do, you have the ability to make your mark, leave your imprint, and make an impact. Time is the most precious thing that once wasted you can never get back. Therefore, prepare to seize every opportunity to make the world a better place. For the world doesn't change on its own, people change it. Understand that while it may take time, you are the change this world is waiting on, and that change begins with us. Philando Castile and Alton Sterling are two of a list of stories that have prompted me to be the change I yearn to see in the world, and they have taught me that time is of the essence. Now, 4 years later, we are still fighting the same pandemic of racial inequality, police brutality, and the unfair treatment of Black people all across the world. In the past 4 years, we have recited the names of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Botham Jean, Jamie Johnson, Dominique Fells, Tony McDade, Sean Reed, Raya Milton, Stephen Clark, Chad Gordon, Pamela Turner, Jamel Floyd, James Sherlock, Elijah McClain, Tatiana Jefferson, Nakia Crawford, Robert Fuller, and an innumerable amount of other individuals who have lost their life to systemic racism. Therefore, I am encouraging you to be more passionate than ever as you enter into this new phase of life to improving the community, lifting your voice, and being an advocate for change. Because after graduation, you have free reign. So what are you choosing to do with it? We have come a long way in fighting the unfairness in the justice system, but we still have a long way to go. The fight is far from over. Time will soon reveal a new system of justice, a society where Black people are not oppressed. Black people are not vilified for the color of our skin, and we are able to freely be ourselves without a suffocating judgment from people who have no idea what it is like to be in our shoes. Now, it's our time. It is our time to grow, to learn, to lead, to solve, and to make the world a better and brighter tomorrow for one another and the next generations to come. Thank you.
You know, I've heard that to be less nervous, it's a good idea to picture that the audience is naked. Unfortunately, that's not working right now. That probably works fine in like a big crowd, but it's a little more awkward in this pre-recorded speech when it's just me and Mr. Sywell. Anyways, before I stepped into high school, I had in mind a list of objectives that I wanted to fulfill. But my biggest goal, like by far, was to finally get a girlfriend. But you know what? I've learned that growing up, it's not about checking things off of a stupid list. It's about making mistakes and knowing that it's okay to fail at a goal, even if you tried really hard. And I tried multiple times. Which is why my message to the senior class and to our parents is that it's really important to remember that we're not totally grown up yet. We're still going to be stupid even after we flip over this whatever you call it. So seniors, go crazy with whatever you do, whether you're going to college or exploring the world. Go jump off an airplane or go get rejected, because you know what? We only get to be this young once. Is it okay to go get that stupid haircut? Yes. Is it okay if your grades slip a little in college? Of course. Was it okay that I overslept and left my homecoming day waiting for an hour? Probably not. So to the parents who are still watching, bear with us for being stupid for just a little longer, because we're just getting ready. When the time comes for us to lead, and the world actually seems like it's falling into pieces, we will be ready.
I wanted to start off by saying how much I admire each and every one of you during this time of COVID-19. This year's been far from easy, and you all have shown me true strength in accepting circumstances we could not change. Whether that was through an impromptu Google Meet with friends or a beautifully orchestrated graduation parade, we have made the most of a time of true heartbreak and devastation. I'd say, class of 2020, that we all have that spunk, which has allowed us to persevere and grow through our 4 years of high school. Spunk is defined as strength and courage and determination, but even more so, it defines how we tackle the challenges we all face, academically, artistically, athletically, and more. We are the generation that makes a change in this world, and I think the present circumstances only prove how we will use our abilities to change minds and hearts, strategize and lead to truly make this a place we want to live. I've had the pleasure of growing up alongside each and every one of you and seeing that spunk through every physics test and every pep rally. I have watched you all build yourself up as human beings of humility at every speech and debate tournament or every musical ensemble competition. I've witnessed all of you fight for what matters in this world, whether that was for PPE in hospitals, or gun reform in legislature, or for the thousands of Black lives lost to police brutality. Trust me when I say I am optimistic for the future, because we all have that spunk to change the world.
Class of 2020, we made it, but even with our 2020 vision, we could not have seen this end coming. Unironically, this is probably the closest I've ever felt to my peers and classmates. We all had a collective goal of coming out of the rubble that was the beginning of 2020 and becoming our own legacy and leaving our mark. The class of 2020 has shown immense strength and perseverance, from battling a global pandemic to essentially fighting race wars amongst our world. Our class graduated through it all, and we did it together, no matter how far away we might have seemed. Unity can be shown in the most obscure ways, and our class has more than proven that we are dedicated to holding ourselves accountable for our successes. We are all essential. While it may feel like we are not, our class is the crutch holding the world together. The world is watching, after all, and they are watching us rise from what looks and feels like chaos. We are erupting as immensely powerful forces that are going on to do big and amazing things in our lives. Graduating was the end of our first chapter in life, the superheroes arc. How Spider-Man became Spider-Man? So in other words, we are all Spider-Man, and we are all going to save the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations, class of 2020.